The Canterbury MP had been badly treated by Labour for years. This was, of course, because of her stance on the trans issue. Like J.K. Rowling and the SNP's Joanna Cherry, she comes at the topic from a pretty mild liberal viewpoint. She does not vilify trans individuals, but simply stands by her belief, rooted in biological fact, that a man cannot become a woman and vice versa. She does not even oppose people changing sex, and was even supportive of Labour's plan to modernise the Gender Reassignment Certificate, GRC. Part of the plan was to make self-ID the criteria on which one is issued. I'm not sure whether Duffield agreed with that element. She certainly doesn't agree now. Duffield also wants to keep female-only spaces owing to the obvious safety concerns. She is not a confrontational TERF in the mould of Kelly J. Keane or Graham Linehan, who do rather revel in provoking trans activists. They're correct, but they are definitely more on the nose. This distinction is of course not recognised by the modern left. To them, Duffield is practically a Nazi, and the Labour Party have largely gone along with the demands for her to be censured, or at the very least sidelined. Luckily for Duffield, Starmer's Labour have been flirting with social conservatism and realising that the public is not sold on the radical trans agenda. This, combined with the election being called at short notice, meant she was able to ride the wave and be selected as the Labour candidate. Duffield had been one of 2017's surprises, getting elected to her seat by a majority of only 187 votes. There had never been a Labour MP in the constituency, and it had been Conservative held since 1868. In 2019, she increased her majority tenfold, despite the Johnson effect, and in 2024 she stormed it with a margin of 18.4%. Corbyn made her a junior shadow minister to Dawn Butler, who we know well. During Brexit, Duffield resigned from the front bench to vote for the UK to remain in the single market. She also supported a referendum on the EU withdrawal agreement, both black marks in my book. Duffield was very critical of Corbyn's leadership during the anti-Semitism row, which attracted the opprobrium of the Labour left, and will not be forgiven even though she has now humiliated Starmer. Duffield got a lot of acclaim for tearfully describing her experiences of domestic abuse in a 2019 Commons debate. It's a backstory, interestingly, that she shares with J.K. Rowling. It puts a certain complexion on her feminist objections to the radical trans agenda, and on the vitriol directed at her. Under Starmer, Duffield was made a party whip in April 2020. However, she had to resign in May once she was found to have broken the COVID rules by visiting her boyfriend. It was in August that year that the controversy around Duffield really blew up. I say controversy, but really she did nothing wrong, at least nothing that was proven. It began when Piers Morgan quote-tweeted a CNN post about individuals with a cervix. Morgan, not unreasonably, asked, "Do you mean women?" Duffield liked his tweet, which attracted the ire of the Social Justice Brigade. One of these was a Canterbury Labour activist who wrote, "Add to the list of reasons Rosie Duffield needs booting. She's a transphobe too." Duffield replied, "I'm a transphobe for knowing that only women have a cervix." Somebody else chimed in with an NHS page describing trans men with a cervix. Duffield backtracked a little, demonstrating her liberalism, writing, "Of course, this applies to some people. They'll know who they are, and this advice is great. But the implication that one cannot describe oneself as a woman without inviting a pile-on is beyond ridiculous now. Almost 52% of the UK population are women." In fairness, the presentation of her argument was not exactly tight here, but it is Twitter, not a Harvard debating society. When asked if she believed that trans women were women, she replied about CNN's original post, "This isn't a post about transphobia, it's a post about female body parts. Hugely insulting to all women, trans or cis, in my opinion." Again, this shows a liberal weakness by using the term cis, A true critic of the trans lobby will not even recognise that term. The whole thing went viral, with Duffield trending for days on Twitter. She amusingly referred to the hysteria as a tedious communist pile-on. It was now that the full spotlight of the radical trans activists and their useful idiots fell on Duffield.